Welcome to Truth or Raps. This is it's a YouTube channel, so Invincible Shield. If that is the 19th Judas Priest album, then that may be numerologically significant. It may be meaningful in some sense, or it's like, oh, this is it, of course. Okay, but let's analyze something here. I'm looking around my iTunes for something to analyze. That's that's obscene. Okay, let's see. Just to give you some credentials, I have 5773 items, 5,773 items. So like songs. Some may be interludes. Some may be maybe not all of them are like songs, but 5,773 rap songs as listed in my iTunes, or items. Actually, I think some of them might be like digital album booklets. So, um, but then 380 albums and 155 artists of rap. So I've, not the biggest expert, but so still someone who has listened to rap. Okay, how about So Far Gone? So this, I've talked about Drake in my Rumble channel, Matt Shtick, which I think is basically completed. But go check it out because I've got a lot of stuff there that's just it's not gonna be here. This is all new stuff. I'm not putting except for the two that are gonna follow the original video when I post those. That would be the Swordbox one and the Venom one. And by the way, you also know if I say Truth or Raps in a video, then that means I didn't have that title, before. Like you can see still, like the introduction video here, I call it Rap School, and then I say, well, that's probably been taken, but whatever it is, and I didn't. It wasn't named yet, so as of the posting of that video. So these are newer videos. If you hear me say Truth or Raps, unless there was some kind of synchronicity and I'm trying to hide an old video as a new video, I'd just say it was an older video. But I may also just not mention it, just like, oh, here's another video, and it's like, well, yeah, this is like, here's a video, this is an older video, but it pertains. Just like in No Country for Old Men, when he tells he tells the wife of Llewellyn Moss a story. The wife or the girlfriend? I think they are married. The life of the life of Llewellyn Moss. That's sort of a tongue-tied Freudian slip there. Tongue twister Freudian. A Freudian tongue twister slip. Freudian tongue twister slip. That sounds kind of obscene in itself, doesn't it? But anyway, when he's telling her a story about a guy who went against a steer, like a steer had challenged him or something, and he had to like shoot the steer with a rifle, and but then the bullet bounced off the steer and hit him in the arm, and he still can't lift his coffee cup right when you sit down and sit with him at a diner and stuff. But then later in the movie, she asks him, "Was that story that you told me about this other guy true?" or something like that. And he says, "Well, it's true that it was a story, So there was something I hope I said it because I don't know if I'm going to get back to it in this recording. What I was going to say about this, it's true that it was, or something like that. I'm not even sure what I was talking about now, but what is this about? Oh, Drake. Okay. Yeah. So we're analyzing the Drake song lyrics of the song on So Far Gone called Lust for Life. And this is a really great Drake song, and it's really indicative of the kind of or it's just an example of the kind of real insight Drake has into at least sort of like the success kind of law of attraction, although he doesn't necessarily talk about it in those terms, but kind of like if you want to talk about it in the reticular activating system of Tony Robbins terms or something, like he has sort of a literacy with those kinds of ideas. If not having read about them in like books and like watched Tony Robbins videos and stuff and other things, read Tony Robbins books, whatever, Tim Ferriss podcast, Jocko Willink, all these things, watching Joe Rogan and going off on tangents as well. It's like, maybe Drake just is sort of a natural and he just sort of gets this idea, gets this stuff. But, geez, I fucking can't stand the website Genius. It is the worst. Fuck Genius. It has a lot of lyrics on it. If you're looking for lyrics, it will tend to be there and presented in sort of an attractive way visually. But then the presentation is screwed based on all these videos everywhere on the screen and all these ads popping up and like doing stuff, and then they've got a video of someone talking that follows you down. You can X out of that, thank goodness. Otherwise, I might not even go to the frickin' site. But it's just like all this stuff like beaming in your eyes as you're looking at these lyrics, and it's like right next to the lyrics. It's a horrible site. I hate this site. Okay, but here it is on this site. So this is Drake really showing his literacy with sort of like motivational sort of success kind of like think and then do it, like, almost new thought kind of stuff. I'm trying to do it all tonight. I got plans. I got a certain lust for life, and as it stands, everything is going as right as it can. They trying to shoot down my flight before it lands. And so he said, I'm trying to do it all night. I got plans. So he's so, like, that's sort of an important line, even though it sounds kind of like generic, like, I'm trying to do it all tonight, but it's like, it's sort of an important line. Like, he's literally so invested in his success that, like, he's trying to create his entire career and get successful tonight, in one night. That's how invested he is. He's manically invested. And yet, he zooms out right away. I'm trying to do it all tonight, but then, comma, space, or, pause, I got plans. So I'm trying to do it all tonight. I want to pack it into one night, my entire success and career. I want to pack it into one night, all of it. I'm trying to do it all tonight, all of it. And then he steps back and he says, I got plans. As if to sort of, it's like, no, I'm going to accordion it back out. I've got plans. But then, if you look at that in a second way, it could be, I'm trying to do it all tonight, and I've got plans. So he's so incredibly manic that he wants to do everything in the world tonight, in one night, very urgently. Like, it sounds funny, but like that's literally what he's saying. I'm trying to do it all tonight, all of it. And like what he wants to do is become like rich and successful and everything. So he's trying to do it all in one night. And then he has plans for more after he does it, all that in one night. It's like, then it sounds really manic, but he's really showing you in one line here, not even a couplet, one line, he's showing you two phrases, how incredibly devoted he is to success. And this is the mixtape before he just frickin' blew up. This is the mixtape in which he blew up, because there was that song, You Got All That I Want, or what is that song? Best I Ever Had. That's the one. Best I Ever Had, which like isn't. It's, for me, that's not really a highlight of this album. Although I imagine it was probably pretty decent to be that popular. But that wasn't a highlight of this album. There are so many good songs in this album. It's great. This is a mixtape, but as Drake said, I dropped a mixtape. That shit sounded like an album. This is the fucking one. So Far Gone. And so. And by the way, don't pay for it on iTunes, because if it's a mixtape, like you can get it legitimately from a mixtape site like DatPiff. Like they're not giving you like, albums that you'd have to pay for just for free on DatPiff. Like they're giving you mixtapes that are for free. And his mixtape is there and it is for free, and it has more tracks than the iTunes version that you can pay for, because that version actually ironically doesn't have the rights to have some of the songs that you can just get for free along with the rest of the songs on the fucking mixtape. So anyway, headline: get mixtape. Further, for free. Okay. Further, legitimately so. Further, don't steal. Okay, that's good. Okay, now, so we just talked about the first line, but luckily this song only has one verse, but it's a long verse, so tighten your seatbelts. But okay, I'm trying to do it all tonight. I got plans. I got a certain lust for life, and as it stands. So he's referring to that first line, or he could be referring to that first line when he says, "I got a certain lust for life." He's trying to do everything tonight in one night. He's trying to cram everything into such a little amount of time, and yet he's very forward-looking because he has plans. So he's both wildly impulsive and manic, and also very consistent and gritty, as Angela Duckworth might say, and and also like very much like a Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins kind of ultimate success formula kind of guy. He has plans. You might infer, um, whether or not he implies it. Okay, but referring to that stuff, or it could be referring to that stuff, coupled with that stuff, line 2, I got a certain lust for life. Well, of course you do, Drake. It really does sound like you do have a certain lust for life. And as it stands, he said, everything is going as right as it can. There you go. That's sort of, you could say I'm looking too much into this, but I think Drake shows so much insight and so much possible like literacy in like these concepts as they've been laid out by people. As I've looked into them, it's sort of like a real recognize real kind of thing, just like Drake says in another song, the realest N-words say your lyrics do shit for me. Like that's a real line. Like, and I mean like that's a legitimate line. Like I could see like people going up to Drake who are like really real guys, like really authentic, like very very like honest people, and saying your lyrics do shit for me, Drake. Like I could see that happening, and he literally says that it happens a couple albums later in Drake Care and Take Care. And so you might say that I'm looking into it too much for this line 3 to say this, but okay, line 3 again. Everything is going as right as it can. My interpretation. Potentially, or at least you could say this about the lyrics so far, and especially I think probably with the lyrics coming up, one in particular, if it is from the song that I'm thinking of, you could say this, that he's looking at things through, like, that it really works together with the lyrics of the song, because just with the stuff so far, but also with like other stuff Drake's rap about and blah blah blah, real recognize real, he's got it saying everything is going as right as it can. That's a very deep statement if you take it in terms of like sort of you create your world as above, so below, your mindset creates reality. That's literally him saying, just in really a very neutral way, everything is going as right as it can. And the way he says it in the song, it sounds really positive and really, really comforting and really beautiful. He says, everything is going as right as it can, or something like that. Like, it sounds really nice, but like really it's just sort of a neutral statement. Everything is going as right as it can. With the mindset I have right now, with the input that I'm putting in right now, everything is going as right as it can. But it's just as quick as changing your mind to change your reality and also to change your future. And I will actually bring up that later line here right now, and it is in the song, I see, okay. So what I tend to do is to think of today as the past. It's funny when you come in first, but you hope that you last. You just hope that it lasts. Particularly the first of those 2.5 lines, or 2 and a partial line, or whatever it is. So what I tend to do is to think of today as the past. That's the line. He delivers it more like, so what I tend to do is to think of today as the past. So that sort of compartmentalizes it into three things. First, his statement is, so what I tend to do is to think. And there's a pause, but if you take it as just that part of it, separated from the rest, indeed by a pause, and by two pauses from the third thing, what I tend to do is to think, period. Perhaps Drake is basically saying there, what I tend to do is to think. Like, I actually think about things, I actually analyze things, I'm actually weighing things up in my mind, and other people might not be doing that. And that might be a secret to my like success that's going to be particularly in the future as a huge rapper, not just rapper of the month with Lil Wayne perhaps here, or in recent times from when he released this, I think, or around the time of that, and not just as an actor in Degrassi, sort of like, you know, your classic child actor, but no, he tends he's looking forward into a future that is, it's interesting that he says it here, because his future as a rapper, as I was laying out there, it wasn't certain that he was going to remain the big public icon celebrity that he was. For whatever worth that might have, you might say that has negative worth. In any case, it wasn't guaranteed that this child actor who rapped with Lil Wayne a little bit and had some hits and stuff was going to be anything more than that. And it wasn't just going to be like a that Superman, that hoe guy. What was his name even? Soulja Boy. Like, wasn't going to be seen more as a Soulja Boy. And it does, like, Soulja Boy has like funny videos online, or he did at one point anyway. Like, I think there might be a little more to Soulja Boy, but like, he wasn't necessarily guaranteed more than like his sort of already kind of overstaying their welcome, possibly 15 minutes of fame. Except they weren't overstaying their welcome, because Drake is a different kind of person. And here he is saying, so what I tend to do is to think. And again, this is before he blew up into the massive superstardom Sprite commercials, fucking Drake filling arenas and amphitheaters probably, and Eminem saying, I shut shit down like Drake at the mall or something, which, saying it now, I've always wondered, like, what does that line really mean? Is that a reference to a Drake? I think it is a reference to Best I Ever Had, but it's also sort of like, if Drake was in a mall, he would shut shit down. The entire mall would be fucking shut down because of like how much of a disruption Drake being there would be. That's how big he got after this song. And what is he saying in this song? So what I tend to do is to think. He thinks about things. He analyzes things. He could stop it right there, and he does stop it there for a while, because that says enough right there. But then the next part, pause of today. And he could stop it right there, because he has a pause after that. So what I tend to do is to think of today. A lot of people maybe aren't thinking of today. A lot of people maybe have their heads in the future and their heads in the clouds and stuff, and feel like they have big plans and feel like they're maybe doing some like law of attraction stuff, but they're not paying attention to what's there before them. Perhaps they're not thinking in terms of like analyzing things and being rational, like it seems like Drake might have been saying with the earlier part of this, before he expanded it out with these two words of today here. But, you know, like perhaps people aren't being rational at all, but even if they were, perhaps they'd be being rational about like things in the future, but they wouldn't be thinking of today and doing things today to make it happen, and perhaps they wouldn't be putting forth the effort today. And thinking of today sort of carries with it a connotation of, okay, think of today. It sort of carries with it the connotation of actually doing the things that you're thinking of, and if you're actually doing them, then today is a pretty short time frame to be doing them, so it sort of carries the connotation of actually doing what you say you're going to do, rather than just perhaps rationally thinking about it. So here Drake says, again, so what I tend to do is to think of today. Great. Pause. As the past. Changes the whole statement. Changes everything. Everything is still valid, but it totally rearranges it. So what I tend to do is to think of today as the past. That's the entire teaching of like law of attraction. That's the entire teaching of assumption of Neville Goddard and stuff. That's the entire teaching of all of that kind of manifest stuff. I could stop this video right now, and I probably should. That's the entire teaching of everything like that, and he's putting it right in one line. And he does it in 3 steps to show you it's important to think like rationally. It's important to assess everything around you and stuff. And it's also important to think of today and actually think of the things you need to do today, and not just think about the future, but put it into context of what you're doing today, and then actually take those steps as well. So bridge it to yourself in terms of not only the thinking and the planning, but also the doing, in a certain sense of like if you're thinking of today, then today is pretty much, a short enough time span where it's like you're probably more likely to do it because you're A, thinking of it, and then B, if you're talking about thinking of it, then that probably carries with it the sense that you're standing behind what you're saying as well, and then thus you're actually doing that today. But then he switches it around to do the final message and perhaps the final meaning of his success or the final way that he got to it. So what I tend to do is to think of today as the past. He's already in the future. Mentally, Drake has already put himself there.